If we are the example as a leader, as a CEO, as a business owner, then every employee will come along because there are many people they like to follow. So if the leader knows how to lead, the people will follow with the same example.
Welcome to the Optimized Workplace. I'm your host, Fran Bishop, where our discussions with influencers, experts, and innovators are helping transform the well-being and sustainability of today's workplaces and spaces. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Tassos Kotzias. Say that 3 times fast, right? Tassos, on heart and the value and impact of heart coaching methodology. So heart coaching, for our listeners, is the idea of helping you feel holistic, empowered, accepted, resilient, and transformed. I think that's completely amazing. And Tassos truly believes that and is very passionate about the fact that this training methodology and this system of training can help us appreciate and integrate holistic transformation, balance, and harmony in our lives. So I am over the moon excited about this conversation. So Tassos, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Fran. Thank you. It's a pleasure of being here with you, and appreciate our discussion today. I'm also excited, to get this going, and let's see how we can bring value to our listeners.
Absolutely. So if you guys haven't picked it up yet, Tassos is from the beautiful Greek Isles. However, he is calling in today from Qatar. So I think he's going to bring a really rich perspective in reference to a global view of what it means to be holistic, not only from a coaching perspective, but also when it comes to helping our teams, helping those that we work with that are in our network, all of that with this heart methodology. So Tassos, if you will, for our audience, can you unpack what this heart methodology is all about and how did you discover it and where did it originate from?
So heart is basically a copyrighted coaching methodology of mine. And it's an acronym, as you already mentioned, which means holistic, empowered, accepted, resilient, and transformed. And how do we achieve this? We achieve this through a 5-step process. So when we get to coach with someone getting into a coaching partnership, we discover first all these ideal habits that someone can use in their life systematically in order to create this holistic approach, first of all. Because starting with a holistic approach, basically we are touching 4 different levels of awareness or 4 different levels of well-being, if we can say that, which is the physical level, it's the mental level, it's the emotional, and it's the spiritual level. So once we have all these together, these all 4 levels together under this holistic approach, and we embody these on our daily routines, on our daily habits, on our daily life, on our daily program, on our calendar, with our relationships, our families, our friends, in the workplace, with our colleagues, with our employees, whatever this is, even with our bosses or our managers, let's say, right? Then we can go to the next step, which is the empowerment. Because once we start having this holistic approach, then we know very well our boundaries. And once we know very well the boundaries, we can say no whenever we have to say no, and we say yes whenever we have to say yes. So for me, this is a very interesting approach because I see a very big need in my coaches and in my social relations, for setting these boundaries around this holistic approach. And this holistic approach really helps and assists ourselves on how to put these boundaries in our lives in order to proceed to the empowerment. Because once we have set these boundaries and once we have this holistic approach, let's say becoming a habit of ours, then we feel more empowered because we feel more grounded. We know more better what we want. We know better why we want this. We know why things are important to us, and then we can focus. And then we can
I really love what you're saying here, and I think there's a powerful nuance with what you're saying because I think one of the things I strongly believe in coming out of COVID and why people really are really pushing back so much and going back into the workplace is because they didn't feel like they could bring their whole selves, right? And working from home, even if the top half of you looks very corporate and executive and the bottom half, you're in your pajamas and your Crocs, that's who you are at the base. And people fake it and fake it and fake it when they go into the workplace, but that's not who they are all the time, right? They're not perfect. The hair is not always in the perfect place. the outfits aren't always great. Sometimes you wake up on the wrong side of the bed. Sometimes you have a bad mood. Sometimes, you don't do what you need to do to bring your best self to work. And working from home, you didn't have to. You could bring your best half self to work, right?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I love what you're saying around the fact that this holistic approach is about meeting people exactly where they are on each of these dimensions rather than just one. Now, I'm curious, and I know you're still kind of unpacking it for us after Empowered, you're moving on, but as you move on and tell us a little bit more, do you feel like there's one element that typically rises to the top of the heart-centered approach of coaching and training individuals? Is there one area where people find a little bit more resonance and they're able to buy into a bit quicker? And so that's a quicker way to kind of reach common ground, if you will, for a manager with an employee or, two colleagues, et cetera?
Empathy. If I can say one word, it would be empathy, right?
Yeah.
Because if there is this empathy and there is this atmosphere of empathy within an organization, and you are the expert, of course, in the wellness, in the workspace wellness, and you understand. So if there is this empathy, this element of empathy between the employees, between the managers, between the staff and everyone, then we are more ready to accept the others, as you said, with their pajamas, let's say in brackets, right? So it's like saying welcome of being a human being, right?
Yeah.
We are a human being, all of us in the end. So that this is where the wholesome comes from, and this is where empathy really plays an important role in this wellness, in the workspace. So this would be my answer to your question.
So how do individuals empower empathy within the work environment, even the home environment, or within any environment that you find yourself, interchanging with individuals, communication wise? You're rubbing shoulders on a regular basis. When people, haven't developed necessarily that emotional skill set, that emotional intelligence, right? How do they, empower empathy then?
Well, there are tools and there are ways, because 50% of that could be an effort from the organization to encourage the empathy, to foster this empathy, within the organization, to support women and men, to sharing more, understanding more, listening more. Active listening is very important. And of course, another 50% is us as individuals, what we want, what we do about that, and how we want to approach this. Because some of us may be, hesitant, or maybe we have blockages or limiting beliefs that they don't allow us to share, they don't allow us to ask the right questions. Ask, how are you today, and mean it. Not just, this morning routine, or I'm going to the office and say, oh, how are you? Good morning. How are you? Okay, thank you. Bye. It's like, how are you, and mean it. Really, how are you? How are you feeling today? Are you okay? Do you want something? Can I help you with something? Can I support you? Can we work together in something? Really a meaningful discussion, a meaningful conversation that shows this empathy and cultivates this empathy in the organization. So yes, there is the tools that come from an individual perspective and from the corporate management, from the management perspective. And this is the culture. This is the culture that each organization needs to build. Some people, they are more talented, let's say, and they are more, easygoing in this, or they are more instinctive. They have this natural instinct of empathy, so they can lead this effort. Some people, they lag behind, so they need some support to reach there. But anyone can do it. Everyone can do it. It's about, as you said, about the emotional intelligence skills, or emotional level that we go through our lives. It's also a matter of age sometimes. When we were younger, maybe, or we as men, we're a little bit more closed. We're difficult to share, difficult to talk, difficult to engage in this kind of challenging conversations or difficult conversations. While women may be more open, be more willing, to go through this process, and this can really help them and support these women specifically, to also advance in their careers, achieve their goals, manage this. Where before we're talking about like work-life balance. If I may here, I would like to change a little bit this meaning, let's say, or this nuance of work-life integration, because as you said, what is work-life balance? You said before, yes, but when I'm home, I'm feeling comfortable, and I'm feeling very compared to when I'm in the office. So how can we be comfortable in our offices? If we need to walk with our socks without shoes, for example, on here or barefoot, let's do it. Why not doing it? Why the culture should allow to do this? If we can be more efficient and more productive, and you know what, this is in many cultures and in many religions, as you know, this is perfectly allowed. Perfectly,
that would be very interesting
common.
to see. But that would be very interesting to see people walk around the Wall Street, right, with a suit on top and pajama bottoms on the bottom.
Yeah, but then I know. But we have to ask. You have to ask ourselves, why do we need to wear a suit in the first place?
That's a great point. I think you're making a great point. You're absolutely right. I mean, in order to meet people where they are, you have to be willing to let people bring their whole selves. I remember I attended a conference a couple of years back, and the speaker, the keynote speaker, was talking a lot about this, EI and reframing it so people could bring their whole selves. And I remember somebody raised their hand and said, I don't want my team to bring their whole selves to work. Like, I don't want to see the rest of that, which, everybody laughed, right? Everybody got a kick out of that, which, I could see that side. But at the same time, if you don't, looking at what we just came out of with this, horrible pandemic, when I was watching a report the other night on 60 Minutes, it said that, we're just, feet away from another, horrible virus like that, right? So if you don't let people really explore who they really are and bring themselves and be open and honest about that, then that's where you see where things are today, where people are resisting coming back. You have this complete, upending of the workforce and the great resignation and all this other stuff that's happening, because it's really the great reimagination. We're having to reimagine what the future of work looks like, because folks aren't happy with that old traditional model, and just trying to regurgitate it and bring it back isn't going to work. So one of the things I'm curious about around this topic is, with the work that you've done, you've obviously been involved with this for quite some time. Tassos, where do you see the biggest shifts happening as you introduce this, into corporate, the clients that you work with? If you can tell us a little bit about that, where do you discover the biggest shifts your clients are able to make with this methodology?
The biggest shift is really in being happier, being calmer, being more mindful, I would say, right? Because when you go through these steps, these processes, the transformation process, you're coming closer to your real purpose. You're coming closer to your authentic self, to your true self. So the closer you come there, the calmer you feel, the more mindful you feel, because you know that you are in your space. Let's say you're in a comfortable space and you have discovered this space, and this space already gives you the calmness that you need, the presence that you need, the grounding that you need in order to be efficient and successful, and without seeing work, without seeing a job or a project or a deadline or a deliverable as a huge milestone or a huge stressful situation that really holds you back, and you don't know how to behave, or you don't know how to react, or you don't know how to deliver. So you are happier, you're smiling more, very important. Don't forget that you have a beautiful smile. So you have to maintain that in the workspace. But this happens only when we are closer to what we really want to achieve, when we really know who we are. And this is a big shift. Because from your experience in the corporate world, right? If you ask out of 100 employees, how many are they are really, really happy on what they do in their day job, in their actual day job, let's say, if I can call it like this. Maybe 5%, 7%, 8%, right? That would be the maximum. So how can we shift these 90%, let's say, of the people? How can we shift them in a way that they feel aligned with the corporate culture? They feel aligned with the beliefs, with the value system, the beliefs with the goals of their organization, so that they give the maximum they can, instead of silently resigning or really not being efficient or effective at all.
So that's amazing.
This is the shift. This is the shift that happens, and this is part. If I can go back, if you allow me, going back to this empowerment and acceptance thing, this is very important for the empowerment, the acceptance cycle. because if the organization can provide this environment of providing a culture that trusts the people, a culture that values the people, then the people reciprocate. So they give the trust back. They offer more. They offer more. It's not about the money only, or the benefits, or the allowances, or what is all these material things. It's about how can I contribute more? How can I support my colleagues? How I can have a better, how can I be more innovative? How I can be more creative for the benefit of the organization, for the benefit of the team, for the benefit of myself. How I can impact more, what I can do to find something new, something different, to create an impact in not only in the corporate, in the company, the organization, but also to the world through the organization.
Yeah, I definitely have seen that. I mean, and I'm sure you have in your work too. You walk into organizations that you work with, clients, whatever, speaking, and you can instantly tell those who are really vested, who really feel connected, who go above and beyond, and there's a pep in their step. We call it inner zing here at Aerobodies, but you know, there's a zest to them, right? There's a vitality to them. There's an energy to them in terms of what they do, that they're not doing it because of the paycheck. They're doing it because there's a passion behind it. They really love it. And even when it's the work you don't like to do, right? Like, you know, a CEO, you know, I've been running my company for almost 30 years. There's a lot of stuff I don't like to do. There's a whole lot of stuff. Like, you know, I'm not excited about doing everything soup to nuts. No, I'm not. But things like this, I love. You know, getting in the trenches and really helping people create transformation, I love. Right. There was a time I really loved the training piece, but I've blown out my knees with a couple of knee surgeries. So the bottom half doesn't work as well as the top half anymore. So I'm more top half. Right. But whatever the case is, you know, you find that zing. And so that zing pushes you through to get the other work done. But it's sad when you do walk into organizations where it's just the opposite. And, you know, I don't care how great your program is, you know, as well as I do, sometimes you can't resurrect the life of people who just don't believe in the mission or the vision or the overarching theme of the organization, because they don't see the empathy, right? Like they've tried to give everything they could, but it's not there. So can we talk for a moment from that perspective? If you are a CEO, a corporate lead, a VP, or you're even running your own business. So when I say CEO, sometimes I'm thinking Fortune 500, but even, you know, small businesses.
A business owner,
Yeah, or team leads, you know, and you're really trying to figure out, how do we do this from the perspective of leadership, so that we really want to create that? Because you've talked a lot about the empathy of what individuals need to have, but what does the visionary or the lead need to be embracing in order to really push this through the enterprise?
Yes. So of course, as you know, we lead by example, right? You have to lead by example. So if we are the example as a leader, as a CEO, as a business owner, it doesn't matter what. If we are the example of this and we walk the talk, then every employee will come along, because there are many people they like to follow. So if the leader knows how to lead, the people will follow with the same example. It's like, you know, raising a child. Same thing, you know, if for me as a parent, I do some right things during my day, I behave in a nice way, in a proper way, depending on my values and my beliefs, then the child will follow this subconsciously. It's the same thing with an organization. Same thing. Once you lead by example, the people will follow and they'll try to reach your level. They will get the example from you. And of course, this requires training, requires learning, requires growth, requires sharing, requires reflection, self-reflection, you know, to go back, to identify these moments, to identify some weaknesses. From the leader perspective, I mean, right? From the CEO point of view, and then go back and say, yes, I made this mistake. It's my mistake. It's my fault. I will have to rectify. I'm sorry. I apologize, whatever, and we move on. You know, so once you build this culture and you do your self-reflection, you provide feedback, honest feedback, creative feedback to your people and your employees, and you lead by example, then I don't think that this is a win-win situation for me, 100%. This is what is really missing, I think, from the majority of the organizations. Anyway, that's why you have very successful organizations and you have not successful organizations.
What's the typical look of those organizations? Because I do feel very strongly that sometimes people need to be in a position to be coached, They need to be in a
Of
position
course.
to be trained. They need to be in a position to be well. Let's be honest. I don't work with every client that calls us and says, "Hey, would you take this, contract, or would you take this opportunity?" Because sometimes they're not in the position to be ready for the changes that are going to need to be made. Correct. So
Yeah.
the transformation. How do they get ready to be able to work with someone like you?
Yes, you're right. First of all, it's the rule of the coaching. Let's say that the coachees need to be coachable, right? So, your coaching partners needs to be coachable. If there are some barriers there, some limiting beliefs, some resistance, still there is a way for them to understand why they resist, why they believe that what they want to achieve. Because most of the people would like to grow. But the question is, it is just a want? I only want? It's just a desire? Or I really can put the effort? I can put the effort back. I can take the actions needed. I can get uncomfortable where I need to get uncomfortable, right, in order to achieve this. So yes, I understand this perfectly. But yes, you have situations that people are not ready for whatever reason. Maybe they are not ready now. Maybe they can be ready in 1 year or in 5 years or in 10 years. Maybe they can never be ready because maybe they're not interested. Maybe they're just like whatever they have, the status quo, as we say, the status quo that they are at this level, and that's it. And they are happy with this. Fine. If they're happy with this, fine. You cannot do much there, right? So they have to have this curiosity, this feeling of, I want to do something extra. I want to do a step, even if it's a small step. I'm not saying going to the moon. Of course, I want to be an astronaut as well, but can I do that now when I'm 50, in my 50s? Can I do, right? Maybe, technology.
You never know, Tassos. Don't limit yourself. Don't limit yourself. Exactly. No, I could talk to you all day. Like literally, I could talk to you all day. But if you had any idea how much paper's piling up over here that I need to get back to. So as we round the corner in this conversation, I'm definitely going to have you back because I definitely feel like there's iterations and different perspectives of what you spoke about that we could delve much deeper on. But as we round the corner, I'm curious about two things. Is there any passion projects that you have going on with your organization for the latter part of this year or going into next year that you're super excited about? And secondly, how do people get a hold of you?
My project right now and my mission basically is this hard coaching to go really into the corporate organization as much as possible, penetrate as much as possible this market. And, and my mission is this, to really serve and create an impact in this coaching space, this holistic coaching space for people, to really improve their lives personally and professionally, because it has to be both. It has to be personal and professional at the same time. We are trying to elevate and grow at the same time, both sides, personally and professionally. And people and our listeners can reach me through my website, which is my name basically. So it's tassoskotzias.com, which means, if I can spell it, it will be TASSOSKOTZIAS.com. And of course, they can find me also in YouTube, in social media, and of course through you.
Well, we'll have all of that in the show notes. I know there's lots of different ways that we can get a hold of you. I think this has been an incredibly valuable conversation for those of you who have listened and are just beginning. You don't live in the world that we live in. So Tassos and I live in the world of transformation and really trying to help people create those breakthroughs. But it's work. And if you don't live in that world, the first thing I would recommend is to re-listen to this podcast, because he really dropped some incredible nuggets about how you position yourself for change, how you begin to bring that into the workplace, into your organizations, and particularly for those that are really challenged with this hybrid, remote. Some people are in, some people are out, distributed. Some people are trying to figure it out. Some people are still in pajamas all the time, like whatever model. I think this conversation has been really fantastic for that. So Tassos, thank you. I cannot thank you enough.
Thank you
For being on today, all the way from Qatar. And he's willing to work with you, even if you're in America, because he sits in Qatar. So that's fantastic too. And I think that's phenomenal because you also help bring a global perspective. And, post-pandemic, we're all working from a global perspective, right? Working with people from all over the place. So I think that's even more valuable to really appreciate, the challenges that people are dealing with today. So thank you again for this conversation.
Thank you. My pleasure. It was my pleasure.
And we want to thank you for listening today to The Optimized Workplace. I'm your host, Fran Dean Bishop. And remember, it's multiple, monumental moments that make the biggest difference in your life. Have a great day. Stay safe and be well. Bye.